tarde, or good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the 2018 Pokemon video game Latin American International Championships. My name is Dweeha, and joining me at the desk right now is Gabby Snyder, and we are still here. We are ready to move on to our top 4 matches, the semifinals.
The semifinals leading into Championship Sunday tomorrow. So whoever wins these next 2 rounds of Pokemon will be facing the winner of the other round that they didn't play in the finals tomorrow. So it's going to be a really exciting time because, you know, this is when everything's really on the line.
Yeah, I mean, all these players have already earned so many prizes. They've already been playing through so many matches in their head. You know, we've seen a couple of rematches, pseudo rematches, if you will, with that last match between Carson Confer
leading
and
into an actual rematch.
Yeah, exactly. So, wow. I mean, there are just so many things going on here at the Latin American International Championships. You know, the Masters are already down to their top 4. Of course, the other tournaments going on. You know, trading card game is still going on too.
There's a mid-season showdown going on for the video game Masters who aren't playing today.
The juniors,
which I thought is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the juniors and seniors started their tournament today too here at the Latin American International Championships too. So they're actually coming into, I believe, round 4 of their tournament. So it's just a lot of action coming at you here from Sao Paulo.
Definitely, and if you want to share, you know, your excitement about all the action we've been bringing you here this weekend, check out our social medias. You know, hashtag Play Pokemon. I've been seeing a bunch of people tweeting that throughout the weekend, and you know, let us know, who are you rooting for? Who's your favorite Pokemon? You know, was the ally switch read that Alberto made in top 8 crazy? Because it was. Over on Twitter, you can find us at twitter.com/Pokemon, on Facebook, facebook.com/Pokemon, youtube.com/Pokemon, and instagram.com/Pokemon as well. You know, plenty of amazing Pokemon channels for you to check out, get your social media fix, and share some hype for the top 4 matches we got coming up next.
I did check the Instagram, and of course, it is the 1000th episode. Gabby, thank you for mentioning that earlier today.
I believe it actually just started airing in our home time zone, if you will. So if you're at home watching that, maybe turn the volume down on it a little bit, turn us up. You can always DVR that and watch it later.
Of course, these players are playing for prizes right now. So many prizes on the line. You know, these 4 players have already won or guaranteed themselves $1,000 in cash prizes already. So, you know, that's a lot of money right now. But of course, you can, if you win more matches, the more money you're going to win, over $100,000 in prizes between the trading card game and the video game tournaments.
Yeah, and don't forget about those championship points to, you know, earn your way towards a day 1, potentially even a day 2 invite to the Pokemon World Championships at the end of the season. You know, there are 500 championship points on the line for whoever wins the International Challenge here this weekend. So, International Championship, excuse me. That's a lot of points, and that could honestly make or break a lot of invites and a lot of potential travel awards for people.
Each of the players here in the top 4 have already earned 320, but they can, as long as they continue to win,
they just have to keep winning.
Keep winning more points. You know, the next stage, if you become a finalist, you get 400 championship points, and of course the coveted prize, the championship, comes with 500 championship points, as you have already mentioned. Of course, the prestigious title of Pokemon Latin America International Champion as well. There's only been 1 crown so far in the Masters division, but
that crown could be yours, and the trophy that goes along with it. Those
Sweet
are
trophies,
some nice trophies.
Yep, and of course, Pokemon trading card game booster packs are also at stakes as well. You know, it's always just fun to open those booster packs. You know, see what kind of cards you can pull.
I really like using them as bookmarks, actually.
That's actually really clever.
Yeah, so I do a lot of reading, and you know, I love the artwork, and I love playing the trading card game too, obviously. But sometimes you get a card like a Bidoof that, you know, maybe you don't play in the card game as much, but excellent bookmark.
That just goes to show how good you are at this game. I don't win trading card games, so I have to use an electronic book instead, not with a real physical bookmark. So
it's all right. Maybe we can hit up some of those side events going on later, so you can pick up a few booster packs and, you know, try your luck.
I wish we could do that, but I think we're going to be a bit busy here, Gabby. I think we still have a tournament to be casting here.
Well, then let's take a moment to look back on the tournament so far. You know, if you are just tuning in, we were able to stream all 4 of the top 8 matches this morning, and what an exciting top 8 it was.
Yeah, so many matches, you know. about 150 players came into this tournament, registered for this tournament, and those are 150 of the best players in the world, flying from all over the world, and we can see exactly how it's represented here in this international bracket. I mean, look at this. We got players representing Spain, Italy, Ecuador, Singapore, the United States, and even Peru. So players really did come from all around the world to play in this tournament.
It was truly an international challenge, but there are only 4 left standing. You know, Carson Confer defeating Alex Gomez and beating the team that he actually lost to in the last round of Swiss, only to have to face it again in his, top 4 opponent, Eric Rios. And, that's going to be a really exciting match. But first, we're actually going to be bringing you Melvin K. Thank you. Melvin K versus Alberto Lara, both of whom, had some very interesting matchups going into top 8.
Yep, Melvin K only had to win 1 game in his match versus Raul Ramirez from Ecuador due to that team sheet error penalty that Raul incurred. So Melvin kind of eased his way into the top 4, but now he has to face off against a very tough opponent in Alberto Lara, who had an exhilarating set versus Jean-Paul Lopez Buiza. I mean, if we think back to yesterday in the last round of Swiss, Alberto Lara actually had to go up against Jean-Paul Lopez, and Jean-Paul Lopez pretty much, in, I believe they were Alberto's words, destroyed Alberto. And in game 1, Jean-Paul also beat Alberto, so taking 3 straight losses against Jean-Paul, and then Alberto is able to come back, squeeze away a victory, force a game 3, and then just taking game 3.
He's gunning for it. I think Alberto Lara, he's the championship point leader in the U.S. right now, and he's really one of the strongest players I think the United States has to offer. And, if you're looking for a little nation pride, I think he's a great sort of, spokesperson for the U.S. Obviously, Carson Comfort could enter the top as well. We could have a U.S. versus U.S. finals. There could be a Singapore versus U.S. finals. There's so many permutations. I think I won't stall for time and list all of them.
Wow. I mean, this is such an exciting tournament, and again, as I've already mentioned, just 150 players, 150 of the world's best players. You're going to be paired up against some of the best players, so it's just so tough. You might pull a former international champion, you might pull a former world champion, you might pull a player that's won 3 regional championships, or even special events, so you never know who you're going to pull here at this tournament. But, we're down to just 4 players, and you can actually say that these 4 players are the elite 4 here at the Latin American International Championships.
I like what you did there. I like that. The elite 4. We should start using that more often.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's make it happen.
We're just going to have to remember that.
All right. I'll try and set a reminder somewhere because I won't otherwise.
Anyways, I'm excited. We got to interview Melvin after his victory over Raul. I asked him, who would you rather face off? Melvin kind of didn't care. He's just going to take it 1 match at a time. He knew that both these players are very strong. He watched the match yesterday between Alberto and Jean-Paul, so he knows that he has to pretty much be ready for whatever Alberto is ready to throw at him. Both these players have had a nice break coming into this, nice lunch break.
Yeah, they had a full hour, I believe, maybe a little bit longer, since neither of them were playing in the last match that we aired. Just go out, get some food, relax, maybe enjoy the sunlight for a bit, and really sort of get their mind in the right place to go into this top 4 match, with the winning mindset that they need.
Yeah, I took a walk around the venue, and it was actually very nice. But hey, you know what? Enough of us talking about just walking around. Gabby.
Yes.
Top 4.
Yes.
It's about to start.
The Elite 4.
The Elite 4. Oh, I already messed it up.
Set the reminder.
Melvin K from Singapore. He finished with a Swiss record of 6-2. You can see his accomplishments on the left. We've already brought up his player profile earlier, but again, for those of you just tuning in, he was the 2018 champion of the Hong Kong Open, as well as the finalist in the Singapore Open in just this calendar year. In 2017, he was the champion of the Malaysia Open and the finalist of the Singapore Open, so a very strong season. Melvin has been to every international championship that there has been. He loves traveling for these events. He will be piloting the team of Milotic, Tapu Koko, Charizard in its X form, the Landorus, Tapu Lele, and the Snorlax.
Yeah, so it's a really fun team, honestly, on paper, because there's a lot of interesting options. You know, there's that Tapu Koko, Landorus, Snorlax, and Charizard, I think that many trainers have been doing very well with here at the International Championships. But there's also that Tapu Lele and that Milotic for a little bit of international flair, let's say. You know, that Milotic, I think, is a beautiful counter to Incineroar, which, you know, having been released between the Oceania International Championships and, you know, now in the Latin American International Championships, you know, having a Pokemon that can use Intimidate to its advantage is definitely going to come in handy. You know, it can really charge up. You know, it doesn't really have great special attack otherwise, but it has a lot of interesting techs. And, you know, I hope that we can see this Milotic come out to play against Alberto because...
I'd actually like to rescind my statement previously. It's actually Charizard Y. The two Charizard X's are on Eric Rios and Alex Gomez's team, so I actually apologize for that mistake. These matches are just so hyped that they're all just coming together.
No worries. I think you were just excited to see the Charizard.
I was. And, you know, the team composition, the Milotic, the Snorlax, and the Landorus Therian, I forgot who exactly I was trying to think about when it came to team preview. But anyways, Melvin K, right across from him, the best player in the Northern American circuit right now, Alberto Lara, who squeaked that victory away from Jean-Paul. From Jean-Paul, running a team named after his friends because friends give you power.
The power of friendship.
The power of friendship. Alberto Lara also finished with a Swiss record of 6-2, 3-time regional champion, and he is following up his strong top 8 finish from the Oceania International Championships.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I also love his team with that Gengar, the Landorus Therian, the Raichu, the Tapu Fini, the Totem Araquanid, the very big Araquanid, and the Porygon too. It just, again, shows a little bit of that creativity that the 2018 metagame allows these players to bring. You know, I don't think we've seen any of the Totem Pokemon really come into play yet. There's several of them that you can get throughout the storyline of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I believe by finding stickers of all things. And it's just such a cool mechanic because it does give these Pokemon a little bit different stats and a little bit, you know, more staying power, if you will.
And it makes them heavier as well.
And it makes them heavier as well because, yes, they are bigger.
Yep, and that actually means that, you know, certain mechanics in this video game are actually based on weight. So maybe you might be taking a little bit more damage from a Grass Knot or a Low Kick, but you can't be Sky Dropped.
But you cannot be Sky Dropped. And, you know, just staring down a giant spider is some people's worst nightmare. Not that I'm talking about anybody in particular here.
I think you're talking for the both of us right now, Gabby.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't want to out myself, but if, you know, we're both feeling that, then I'm okay. But no, it's such a fun team, and I think there's a lot of offensive potential. We saw Alberto Lara really rely on the Trick Room mode that his team brings in top 8, and I'm thinking that, you know, he might not really need it as much here. You know, there is going to be that Snorlax on Melvin's side of the field, and Milotic not usually known for its speed. So unless he was hoping that the Araquanid would honestly be enough to carry, or that having Trick Room on the field for half the game, maybe either the early half or the later half would be, you know, sufficient for that, then that might be what he does. I'm excited to see this lead, honestly, from both these trainers because it's one of those situations where we know they've had time to think about it. We know that they've seen each other play in top 8. So they have to have a game plan.
Yeah, and
or at least I hope.
I mean, Alberto probably spent that hour trying to think about the game plan here versus Melvin. Of course, Melvin was probably just watching in the stands what Alberto was doing versus Jean-Paul. And not only that, but also probably watching yesterday's match as well. So both players are ready now. The headsets are coming on. That's the equivalent to trainers turning their hats backwards, getting ready to battle. No hats on the stage, but headsets are coming on, so that means it's battle time.
You know, it would be cool to see those cool hats be reversed, just saying. Just, you know. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. You know, it's great that these trainers are ready to go. I mean, we've kept them waiting long enough, don't you think?
I think they're ready to go. I think they're ready to battle. I am so excited right now, Gabby. Top 4. Give it up for both these players. For those of you guys in the audience, for those of you watching at home, also use that hashtag #PlayPokemon. Who are you rooting for? Melvin K of Singapore or Alberto Lara of the United States?
Don't forget those flag emoji too, because those are so cool.
Yeah, and I actually think that, you know, when it comes down to these international championships, it's actually an honor to be able to represent your country in these tournaments. So
did you know that Melvin, or did you notice that Melvin brought the Singapore flag with him? I think that's
would
so
not be surprised.
cool.
Yeah, this is actually Oceania's second top 4 at the international championships this year, after Isaac Lam from New Zealand and Singapore made it to the top 4 at Oceania. So here we go into team preview between Melvin K and Alberto Lara. For those of you just tuning in right now, Alberto has already selected his team.
Gosh.
He knows what he wants to do.
That's insane.
Melvin K is still trying to write down and take notes on Alberto's team, but Alberto already knows what he wants to do. Melvin K running that team of Milotic, that Tapu Koko, that Landorstarian, that Charizard in its Y form, Tapu Lele, and Snorlax. Alberto already locked in that standing by screen already with that Gengar, Landorstarian, Raichu, Tapu Fini, the Araquanid in its totem form, and that Porygon too.
I mean, Melvin did say that he wanted to take every battle one at a time, right? I hope this isn't an indication that Alberto has already thought through this matchup entirely and, might even catch Melvin off guard. That confidence when locking in Pokemon so quickly, you know that, especially during a game 1, it's because the trainer has already thought about how exactly they want to approach this matchup.
Yeah, and maybe Melvin's also just using this extra time here to kind of try to figure out, what are Alberto's possible leads, what Alberto might be trying to do, and how Melvin can actually maybe think a couple turns ahead,
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, the good thing about his team is because he has, those 4 powerful Pokemon, the Tapu Koko, the Charizard Y, the Landorstarian, and the Snorlax. There's so much interesting synergy between those Pokemon, and there's so many different ways that he can play them. Even if he ends up leading into a very suboptimal sort of situation, I think he just gave him like some candy or something. But anyways,
the Singaporean players are actually very nice. Yeah,
that is so sweet.
They actually gave me some treats sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I should make a mental note of that.
You should go say hi to Melvin after this battle.
I think I might. But no, I think that he'll be able to adjust to the lead that we just saw Alberto send out onto the field.
Here we go now. First match of the top 4, first game of the top 4. Give it up for both of these players here, as Tapu Fini is going to set the Misty Terrain versus that Tapu Lele Psychic Terrain, while Melvin also leads with the Charizard. Alberto leading with that Raichu that provides nice Lightning Rod support for that Tapu Fini, but it's not going to come in handy here because there's not that many electric attackers out on the field.
Yeah, no Tapu Koko from Melvin yet. More importantly, that Tapu Fini removing the Psychic Terrain from the field and making it so Raichu can potentially fake out that Tapu Lele. Charizard, unfortunately, due to its flying typing, wouldn't have been protected by the Psychic Terrain anyway, so Melvin might be forced to either switch out that Tapu Lele or protect it, or otherwise just sort of mitigate this first turn where Raichu can use Fake Out, but then he has to worry about the Encore that we saw that Raichu use the other day.
Charizard is going to switch out, does not want to take a possible lightning type or electric type attack from that Raichu. Snorlax is going to come right in, going to try to put as much pressure on as possible. Tapu Lele is going to get faked out and flinching here as Tapu Fini is able to get off a free Calm Mind.
And that Calm Mind is really going to help out that Tapu Fini in the long run. We've seen Alberto play this Tapu Fini before. It's a very defensive Tapu Fini. It doesn't have much investment in special attack. It actually relies on the Calm Mind in order to, deal damage and be a Pokemon that can be a threat to Melvin. And now that he has one of those Calm Minds out of the way, he should be good to start attacking. He might want to get one more if he's a bit greedy, but overall, I think he's in a great place to start this off.
Tapu Lele protects itself as Raichu gets the knockoff on that Snorlax, going to knock off that berry, not going to be able to access it later on, and a Muddy Water from that Tapu Fini is going to be used here. It is going to make contact with that Snorlax with a chance to reduce the the accuracy, but no, does not. Snorlax just instead goes for a return, going to do not that much damage to Tapu Fini thanks to its high bulky stats.
No, and that Snorlax hasn't really done anything to power up yet either, so it's not going to be dealing as much damage as, we saw maybe earlier in the day anyways, quite yet. So great positioning by Alberto. That knockoff on the Raichu is going to be key, removing those pinch berries. I mean, one thing that Snorlax loves the most is the ability to munch down on its berry, somehow find it again, munch down on it again, and keep that going as long as possible. And that's no longer an option for Melvin.
That is actually good information for Melvin to know that Raichu carries knockoff and that Snorlax is not that safe in front of it, not just because it could possibly go for an Encore, which Raichu does get access to, but also because of that knockoff. Araquanid in its totem form is going to be the Pokemon that Alberto decides to replace the Raichu with, and here comes a Shattered Psyche from that Tapu Lele, not boosted by that Psychic Terrain, though, so this won't be doing as much damage as it possibly can.
No, it won't be, which you have to wonder, did Melvin double into something knowing that Shattered Psyche on its own probably wouldn't do enough damage, especially since the target was that Tapu Fini after a single Calm Mind? I think the answer is going to be yes.
Oh, it just hangs on.
Barely misses that knockout,
oh,
though,
no.
and reveals the Wiki Berry as well. So, you know, if this Muddy Water connects with that Snorlax and gets an accuracy drop, or knocks it out, that could
there's
be
an accuracy
really
drop.
bad for Melvin.
There's an accuracy drop right there. Snorlax using high horsepower, which was that Raichu slot. Not very effective against the Araquanid right there, so huge survival right there for that Tapu Fini to stick around and heal back up with that Wiki Berry.
And just great timing for it as well. You want your Tapu Fini to be able to hold on with just a little bit of health, because that really maximizes the return you get from one of those pinch berries. So, again, great positioning by Alberto. He just needs to keep this playstyle up, and I think Melvin will have to make some really risky plays if he wants to try and gain back momentum in this game, or otherwise just keep sort of fishing for information going into games 2, potentially even game 3.
Tapu Lele uses Psychic, hits that Araquanid, bringing it down to about 50% right there, as Tapu Fini going to connect again with those Muddy Waters, gets the KO on Snorlax, and also gets the KO on that Tapu Lele. So this Tapu Fini is putting in its work right here, just doing so much damage after getting that Calm Mind boost, and now this Araquanid substitutes up, heals up, and now is just going to be hiding behind the substitute, making Melvin need to fade it in order for him to be able to finally do damage to it.
It's almost as if Melvin's Psychic from that Tapu Lele helped out that Araquanid, because otherwise I don't think it would have been at low enough health to consume that berry. So overall, just leaving Alberto in an even better spot where he started off. That being said, we know these last 2 Pokemon now on Melvin's side of the field. It's going to be the Charizard Y and that Landorus Therian. So, you know, maybe some Rock Slide flinches to sort of, you know, give Melvin some momentum back. The Sunlight from the Charizard Y will weaken any liquidations from that Araquanid. And also weaken the Muddy Water as well. So even though Melvin is down to his 2 Pokemon versus Alberto's 4, if he plays this right, he could bring himself right back into the game.
These are 2 Pokemon that Alberto did not enjoy facing off against with Jean-Paul's team. Is Melvin going to be able to pilot this Landorus Therian and his Charizard to be able to defeat Alberto's 4 remaining Pokemon? Landorus Therian going to use Rock Slide here. It is going to hit both Pokemon. Should be able to fade the substitute on that Araquanid and open up for a Sun-boosted Heat Wave here. So, not sure how much damage this can do, because Araquanid can invest so much in bulk, but Tapu Fini actually dodges that Heat Wave. Was going to survive it anyways, but you just want to get out as much damage as you possibly can. Araquanid now going to about 40%, 45% of its hit points, and here comes the Moonblast from that Tapu Fini. Does so much damage to that Landorus Therian, and Araquanid gets the KO with that liquidation right there.
An amazing positioning from Alberto as well, knowing that doubling into that Landorus Therian with the Araquanid and the Moonblast from the Tapu Fini, not even the Muddy Water, would do enough damage to knock it out. Now it's just this Charizard versus the remaining 4 Pokemon on Alberto's side of the field.
Yeah, and you know, that damage output from that Heat Wave just is not enough. Cannot even burn it, because Water Bubble is such a good ability too. Tapu Fini hangs on, gets the burn on that Tapu Fini, can slowly try to chip away at it, but a Moonblast here just trying to get out as much damage as possible, and a Liquidation might even be able to get the KO here, because Araquanid just does so much damage despite the fact that it is in the sunlight.
Even if it doesn't, there's that Raichu in the back and 1 more Pokemon. I mean, if Melvin, you know, plays his cards right here, actually no, that burn damage won't even be enough to knock out that Tapu Fini. So if Heat Wave is able to connect with both these Pokemon, he can at least get the last 2 Pokemon that Alberto brought into this match.
Here's a Heat Wave, needs 2 critical hits, or no, just gets the KOs
just
outright.
To connect.
Just gets the KOs outright on Tapu Fini, and the Araquanid, of course, that Water Bubble ability does allow Araquanid to resist those Fire-type moves pretty much. I mean, Water Bubble is just such a strong ability. Can't get burned, doubles the power of your Water-type attacks.
It's a great Pokemon, and you know, Araquanid, normally you need to see it with some sort of speed control to help it out, but it's been doing great here.
Here comes Raichu. That should be able to provide fake out support for Alberto's team and seal the deal here, as it can outspeed that Charizard and go for the Volt Switch. But you know, that's not bad for Melvin in terms that, you know, Melvin was actually able to see what Alberto's 4th Pokemon was. Maybe he already saw it earlier. No, he actually didn't.
No, he didn't.
Nope.
It's going to be that Landorus, which I think is really important for him to note. Doesn't even go for the Protect this turn, knows that the game is over. So, well played. I like how he was able to bring it down to the last 2 Pokemon, because now he knows. I think if I were him, it sort of fell apart knowing that the Tapu Lele couldn't really do much against that Tapu Fini. I mean, we saw it miss out on that knockout even with a Shattered Psyche. So that's the adjustment I think I'd like to see him make. I almost want to say that Alberto is expecting to see Tapu Koko because, yes, Raichu is a great support Pokemon with the knockoff, with the Volt Switch, with the Fake Out, but overall, like, having that Lightning Rod ability as well, especially leading with it, really would have just stopped Tapu Koko right in its tracks. So while I still think it's going to be a good idea for Alberto to bring, the Raichu with him as he's already selected his Pokemon again. If Melvin decides to try and go for a knockout on that Raichu, knowing that he brought the Tapu Koko in the back instead of the Tapu Lele, maybe mix up his lead a little bit, I think that would put him in a pretty good position.
And of course, Melvin, one thing that he needs to do coming in this battle is definitely protect that Snorlax a little bit more. It didn't have as much staying power as Melvin really would have wanted. Getting knocked off, that's big. You don't want to lose that berry. You want to be able to keep that berry and recycle it. So Melvin probably going to have to protect Snorlax a bit more if Melvin does opt to bring that Snorlax.
Yeah, I think he was caught by surprise from the knockoff from the Raichu. It's not something that you would normally sort of expect on a Raichu, even though it's a great tech given how these, these pinch berries are everywhere.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And, Alberto actually has the benefit of possibly eating multiple berries with that bug bite on that Arachnid.
I didn't even consider that before, but you're right. His whole team is sort of constructed with multiple ways to remove these pinch berries from play before they're activated. And you can tell, I think that, not that we've seen the bug bite mechanic come into play quite yet on stream, but that has to have served him well throughout Swiss the other day.
And here we go now, jumping into Game 2 of this first top 4 match here at the 2018 Pokemon Video Game Latin American International Championships. Alberto Lara of the United States versus Melvin K of Singapore. Melvin K is going to go ahead and lead with Snorlax and Landorus Therian. Going to change up the leads right here for himself. Alberto Lara is going to lead with the Raichu and that Tapu Fini. It worked in Game 1. Is Melvin K going to be able to adjust?
It's hard to say. We know that this Raichu has knockoff, and we know that Alberto is probably seriously considering just going straight for the knockoff, for going the fake out, knowing that it will significantly, hinder this Snorlax going forward in the game. But if that Raichu does do that, this Landorus Therian will be free to attack straight into it. I don't think we know anything about this Landorus Therian yet. We're not quite sure about the hold item, or, it might be Earthquake, it might be Earth Power, we'll have to see. But even if it were to use something like an Earthquake here, that Snorlax could, consume its berry and then come back and do well. But instead, it looks like Landorus is just going to be leaving the field.
Yep, not even a fake out coming out from Alberto, realizing that, this is a chance for me to knock off this berry on the Snorlax. Landorus is actually going to be the choice scarf variant since it outsped that Raichu right there. Perhaps it was already revealed earlier, but this is the first that I'm picking up on it right now. Tapu Lele is going to go ahead and change the terrain here. Going to make the battlefield just a bit weird here, as the Raichu going for a Volt Switch, not going to knock off just yet. But this is actually, this is dangerous. The Tapu Fini can't go for a Calm Mind, but this Snorlax can actually set up. It's going to come down to whether or not Melvin thought that the Raichu was going to knock off or just leave the field. Landorus Therian hits the field here. Intimidate is going to be used onto that Snorlax. Not going to matter on that Tapu Lele at all. But of course, Snorlax can just go ahead and set up a Belly Drum to maximize that attack stat. Here comes the Tapu Fini Calm Mind. Such critical move in order for that Tapu Fini to stay around, and also, nope, it's not even Belly Drum.
No Belly Drum. It looks like
just the Curse variant.
Yeah, this Snorlax is using Curse, which means at the cost of its speed, its attack and defense will be raised by 1 stage. Unfortunately for the Snorlax, that won't help it much against the Tapu Fini, but against this opposing Landorus, that could mean that something like a superpower would take 2, maybe even 3 hits after the attack drop that it gives to its user to knock it out. So
I don't even think it's 3. I don't think that there's any chance that superpower from the Landorus will even be able to come in for the KO because of the fact that it's just going to keep dropping the attack stat. Snorlax can just heal back up, and it's just impossible, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So it's an interesting thing to reveal in Game 2. We'll have to see how it plays out. For now, though, it looks like Melvin's going to get a chance to get some damage down on that Raichu, depending on who it targeted.
Yep, Tapu Lele is protecting itself here. Not going to want to take a Muddy Water, as the Tapu Fini over on Alberto's side using Muddy Water again. Just maybe hoping for a pickup of an accuracy drop right here onto the Snorlax. Still does good damage to that Snorlax, and Snorlax content to just Curse. So after that first Intimidate, it is currently at 1 stage of increased attack. 2 stages of increased defense, but 2 stages of decreased speed. But, Snorlax, as we all know, is not exactly a speed Pokemon.
Yes, and I think the only time that may come in handy is depending on how it matches up with that Araquanid and, hypothetically if Trick Room were on the field. But I don't think that's the strategy that Alberto's going for. I think he's content to keep sort of cycling in and out this Landorus Therian to ensure that even though Snorlax's defenses are being boosted, its attack is not getting higher, and more importantly, Tapu Fini's ability to deal damage to that Snorlax via the Muddy Water or the Moonblast is not being changed.
And Tapu Lele reveals Ally Switch right here. Going to switch places with that Snorlax, and it's going to be an Encore, and it is actually going to Encore that Snorlax into Curse. So maybe the Raichu was actually going for an Encore into the Tapu Lele to force it to protect again, but now instead Snorlax is going to be the target of the Encore, and now is going to be forced to continue cursing. Right there, Melvin was probably trying to play it a little bit defensively, trying to get Snorlax out of position of getting knocked out as Snorlax uses Curse just one more time, and it's going to be doing that for 2 more turns.
Yeah, a really interesting tech on that Tapu Lele. I don't think you see it that often. Cresselia is kind of the known beloved and not so beloved Pokemon to use Ally Switch, but it could have had, I think, a huge impact if Raichu had gone for the knockoff there. We know Tapu Lele is holding a Z Crystal. It wouldn't have done as much damage. But instead, I think Raichu playing it very safe with an Encore. Encoring the Snorlax into Curse or Encoring that Tapu Lele into Protect would be a great option. And now, it forces a switch. Melvin has to switch out that Tapu Lele unless he wants it to get Encored into Ally Switch.
Yep, Raichu uses Encore on that Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele now forced to continue Ally Switching, so just going to keep changing spots right now. And this Tapu Fini can actually just continue to go for Calm Mind, so now it's at its 3rd Calm Mind boost. It's going to be doing a lot of damage, and that Shattered Psyche for sure will not even be able to KO it. So it's going to come down to whether or not Snorlax can break out of this curse to get the KO. But again, since Snorlax is so slow, Raichu can just continuously Encore, so this is good position for Alberto to just maximize the stats here on this Tapu Fini.
Yeah, a Tapu Fini at, maximum special attack and maximum special defense with the berry still as well. I mean, this thing is going to be crazy hard to deal with. I think Melvin would need the Snorlax in order to even be able to deal any little bit of damage to it, just because its special defenses will otherwise be too high.
Yep, and here comes the knockoff here. Lands into the... Yep, that's right. You can still go for the Shattered Psyche despite the fact that you are encored because it's a different move menu, I believe. And so smart play right there from Melvin to just go for the Shattered Psyche as the knockoff lands. Probably just going to try to target down this Raichu here. Yeah, just you got to get the KO on that Raichu. Just allow your Pokemon a little bit more maneuverability. But I mean, your Pokemon are still technically locked into Ally Switch and Curse.
Yeah, so he's still going to be forced to switch, but at least when Curse expires, Encore expires in one more turn, that Snorlax will be free to move. And I guess if you get a critical hit Moonblast from a crazy powered up Tapu Fini, I don't think that really mattered, honestly. You know, that's one way to switch out your Pokemon. So yes, Snorlax is going to be forced to Curse one more time, but or never mind, it won't be. So it will be forced to take some damage this turn, but it cannot be encored anymore, and it will be free to attack. The big question is, though, can Melvin Snorlax survive a Muddy Water or a Moonblast from that crazy powered up Tapu Fini? And if so, can it knock it out in return? Because if he's unable to remove that Tapu Fini from the field, then I think Alberto honestly is going to be happy to just keep attacking at this point to eventually win him the game.
Well, here's one way that you can actually for sure make sure that you survive that Muddy Water, and that's through a Rock Slide Flinch.
Hey, if where there's a Rock Slide, there's a way.
Yep, Landorus Therian on Melvin's side takes the field. They're going to exchange Intimidates with Alberto's Landorus, but that's not going to matter right here because I think Melvin K's best option is to actually go for that Rock Slide Flinch to allow that Tapu Fini to not move. Alberto switching out the Landorus here, going to switch into the Araquanid. Going to save that Intimidate for later. You know, Melvin's team is pretty heavily loaded with physical attackers. That's going to be important later on. Here comes some chip damage. Is Tapu Fini going to be able to move? That's going to be a good question. Goes straight for the Moonblast, though, and that is going to be big damage on that Snorlax, and I don't think it's going to hang on with the critical hit as just extra damage on top. We call that gravy.
Yeah, that was a great choice of Moonblast there. I think Muddy Water was just too risky. You know, with the flinch chance, with the chance of Muddy Water missing, that would have given Melvin, given him an opening. And he could have also potentially had that Charizard on the field as well to try and weaken that Muddy Water. Granted, he would have had to send that in instead of the Landorus, but you know, here we are. It's a really interesting spot for Alberto. I think he has this game sort of within reach, as provided he keeps up the amazing plays he's been making so far.
Yep, and Charizard is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve, bringing out the harsh sunlight right here, but we've seen that this Araquanid does not care about those heat waves, can just do a lot of damage with liquidations. Tapu Fini now protecting itself, not going to want to take a Rock Slide here. Landorus continuing to just go for these Rock Slides. You know, that Choice Scarf Landorus, very scary Pokemon.
It
does
is a
good
very
damage
scary Pokemon.
Does good damage to that Araquanid right there. Charizard's Heat Wave going to hit this Araquanid, though. Is it going to be enough to get the KO from that range? Nope,
no.
not even close.
And
well,
it
I guess
even
kind of
activates
close.
the Pinch Berry as well, which I think is the most important thing to note about that turn. I mean, that Araquanid has the same amount of health and is basically back to where we have started. And if this Landorus is able to hold on, it looks like it just barely can. Maybe Rock Slide can save Melvin, but it's a tall ask. It's a very tall ask.
Yeah, and here we go. There is not many turns left. Landorus using Rock Slide. It looks like Arachnid is going to avoid the attack here, but it does connect with the Tapu Fini. Wow, I just don't think that there's any offense on Melvin's side that can deal with the Tapu Fini over on the other side.
No, and that's great for Alberto to identify that. I mean, congrats on the burn, I guess, from the Heat Wave, but unfortunately, there's an ability in play preventing the Pokemon that you want to get burned from getting it.
Yep, and the Moonblast connects on that Landorus here and gets the KO right there. Arachnid's Liquidation just going to hit that Charizard in the sunlight. Still does so much damage. You know, Tapu Fini is burned, but there's just no way that this Charizard can break through Tapu Fini's defenses. Yeah, he can get a critical hit, but again...
You would need a double critical hit from a Heat Wave, which...
And you need a lot of misses, but honestly,
yeah.
that should do it. You know, Melvin just doesn't have the offense right now. It looks like Alberto Lara is just one turn away from moving on to the finals here at the Latin American International Championships. Charizard going to use this turn to protect, just get a little bit more chip damage down onto that Tapu Fini here. Moonblast is going to go into that protect, and Liquidation just going to go into that protect as well. But, you know, Melvin just cherishing his moment right now in the limelight.
Yeah, I really like how Alberto played these games. I think he identified the fact that there was really nothing to stop Tapu Fini with the Calm Mind on Melvin's side of the field. And
insult to injury.
Unfortunately, that Heat Wave did miss, but, you know...
And
it happens.
Here comes that Moonblast from that Tapu Fini. That is going to be it. That is going to get the KO on that Mega Charizard Y. And Alberto Lara is your first finalist here at the 2018 Latin American International Championships.
Yeah, congratulations to Alberto. That has to feel really good after such a hard loss yesterday at the end of Swiss.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, he's come back. He has not dropped a game today. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Quick knock on some wood. You shouldn't jinx him. The desk is wood. The desk is wood. But no, you're right. You know, he hasn't dropped a game. He is out. He wants to, you know, go for it, win that prize, get that title finally. And I think he's backing up the plays to show.
Yeah, I mean, he's played exceptionally well. He's ready for this tournament. I mean, he took like 5 seconds to pick his team each and every single time, right?
Yes, you have to wonder, did he go back last night and watch every single possible opponent and come up with strategies for each of them? I mean, the way he's playing, I have to assume that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and of course, you know, that lead with the Raichu and with the Tapu Fini, that's such a strong lead right there. You know, Melvin's only way to really break through that Tapu Fini was that Tapu Koko, but the Raichu did its job. It scared off the Tapu Koko, and it also
never even brought it.
Never even brought the Tapu Koko. Just so scary. And then also the fact that the Raichu was able to knock off that Snorlax berry was just so huge.
Yeah, you have to wonder if there was like some way for him to better handle that Raichu that would have allowed him to bring the Tapu Koko. Maybe it just wasn't possible. I mean, you know, you did mention that he was taking things one game at a time, but clearly I think there was a bit of forethought into this, because otherwise you would think, you know, game 2, you really have nothing to lose. Why not just try it at that point? But hey, he still played crazy well. Like,
oh yeah.
Top 4 is an amazing accomplishment, and I think he did a really good job of representing the Oceania region.
Yep, one of the best players from Singapore right
Definitely.
now, adding 320 championship points to his total already. You know, we already saw his list of accomplishments. That probably means that he has a lot of championship points right now.
Yeah, and usually a lot of championship points means that we'll hopefully be seeing him at the World Championships in the summer as well.
Or
Maybe even sooner.
Maybe even he'll get a travel award to the North American International Championships. Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? He's definitely one step closer to whatever tournament is in his future now, though.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, I mean, I think a lot of players in the VGC community actually had him being some of their favorites to win the tournament. Melvin, I mean. Obviously, other players are also believing in Alberto Lara, namely from Southern California. You know, we saw his team powered by his friends, powered by all of his friends from back at home, giving him the energy.
All the way here to Brazil, to the finals. That is insane.
Yeah, and
power of friendship really should be feared.
I think so. I think that's the strongest power in the universe.
I agree.
Right? My best friend in the whole wide
Heck
world.
yeah, my best friend in the whole wide world.
But that's not it. I mean, there's still one more match to come. Alberto Lara moves on to the finals, but he awaits the winner between Carson Confer and Eric Rios. So that's another exciting match. But first, let's go ahead and hear from Alberto Lara, the player who has just punched his ticket to the finals here at the 2018 Latin American International Championships. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to the 2018 Pokemon Video Game Latin American International Championships. My name is Dewey Ha, and we have our first finalist here, Alberto Lara of the United States. Alberto, I already know how you're going to respond to this, but how are you feeling right now, man?
Pretty good. I was really happy with how I played that match, so I'm feeling confident even though the match is going to be tomorrow.
I mean, how do you feel that, you come into Top Cut today, facing off against an opponent that you said destroyed you yesterday, and then just having this strong performance? You were able to defeat Jean-Paul Lopez, and you were also able to defeat Melvin K right now. I mean, how does it feel do you feel like you're on top of your game right now?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I forgot to give a shout out last round. Thanks to Gio and Drew, because they're actually the ones who theoried the matchup for me against John. And they basically gave me notes and they gave me replays of how to play it. And it's basically thanks to them that I was able to win last round. And yeah, against Melvin, I looked at the matchup basically on paper. I was like, well, he doesn't really have much for Raichu Fini. I can just kind of lead that and play it pretty safe.
Yeah, of course. I've already mentioned it many times on stream before. All your Pokemon are nicknamed after your friends. I think that's actually a very sweet thing. And I just think that that's awesome that your friends are giving you power here at the Latin American International Championships. Well, I got to ask you one thing. You're going to be going up in the finals against Eric Rios or Carson Confer. Who do you actually rather play?
I'm not sure. I would like Carson because it'd be an all U.S. finals, but I'd have to look at the matchups actually to see which one gives me the best shot of winning the whole tournament. So it would depend on that.
You haven't actually seen the matchups yet? I thought, like, a player as serious as you are about this game, you would already, know what everybody's playing in this tournament.
Well, yeah, I know what they're playing. It's more than just look at the paper and see what they're using. It's like, okay, we got to look through movesets, got to look through EVs, got to look through items, look at cores. And it's more of that stuff. Like, on paper, sure, I've already looked at the matchup. I'm like, okay, then I'd probably prefer to play Carson, but it doesn't always work out like that. So you just have to do the work, basically, and find out if you can actually do well against a certain team.
I respect that, Alberto. I got to ask, were you surprised by that ally switch? How is it that in the top cut you've already faced 2 ally switch users?
No, I wasn't surprised, but I knew he had ally switch, so it wasn't a surprise to me. So I wasn't worried about it. I accounted for it.
All right, well, that's good to hear. I'm going to go ahead and let you relax, unwind a little bit. Just go enjoy Sao Paulo. I will be seeing you tomorrow in the finals. Congratulations, and best of luck tomorrow, Alberto.
Thank you so much.
battles in the Pokemon video games are exciting tests of strategy, but if you're a newer player, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the choices. When it comes to training and battling with your Pokemon, where do you begin? Here's a simple guide to help break it all down. Pokemon, as well as the moves they attack with, are split into different types, such as grass, fire, and water. Each of these types has strengths and weaknesses against each other. So a grass-type Pokemon is weak against fire-type moves, but resistant to water-type moves. A more dramatic example would be that electric-type moves are strong against flying-type Pokemon, but won't hit ground-type Pokemon at all. Some Pokemon possess two types instead of one. Rowlet is both a grass and flying-type Pokemon with the combined weaknesses and resistances of those two types. So what makes a Pokemon unique, even from others of its own species? It's a combination of the Pokemon's moves, its stats, the item it's holding, and its ability. Pokemon can learn many different moves, but may only know up to 4 at the same time. All moves are split into 3 categories: physical moves, special moves, and status moves, represented by the symbol next to each move. A Pokemon's stats can vary wildly from one to another, and are a big factor in each Pokemon's unique battle strategy. A Pokemon has 6 stat categories. If a Pokemon's HP reaches 0, it will faint and be unable to battle for the rest of the match. A Pokemon's attack determines how much damage it deals when using physical moves like Wild Charge or Icicle Crash. Meanwhile, its defense determines how much damage it will take from an opponent's physical moves. Special attack and special defense function similar to attack and defense, but are considered for special moves like Thunderbolt or Ice Beam. A Pokemon's speed stat determines the order of battle. When 2 Pokemon face off, the one with the higher speed will move first that round. Each Pokemon can hold a single item given to them by the player. Some items are consumed by the Pokemon for a one-time effect, and other items have a long-term passive effect. Each Pokemon possesses an ability which comes into effect automatically when specific conditions are met. Rowlet's ability, Overgrow, boosts the power of its Grass-type attacks when its HP is low. Certain abilities show a message on screen when they activate. Finally, a brand new game mechanic for Pokemon Sun and Moon players are Z-moves. These are super-powered versions of standard moves that can only be used once per battle. There's a lot to consider when deciding which Pokemon to battle with, especially with trainers being allowed 6 Pokemon on a team. Focus on the basics to start. Find your favorite Pokemon and train it to have moves, an item, and an ability that play to its strengths. Then, find some teammates that help cover your first Pokemon's weaknesses. You'll have a solid battle-ready team before you know it. If you want more information on how to train or battle with your Pokemon, you can find resources on Pokemon.com. Want to watch the pros battle it out at our premier tournaments? Watch on Pokemon.com/live.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 2018 Pokemon video game Latin American International Championships. My name is Dweeha. Joining me at the desk right now is Gabby Snyder.
Still here, still commentating top 4, but what an incredible match we have coming up for you next. And what an incredible match that was last. I mean, Alberto, just so much confidence playing Melvin. He did an amazing job with, locking in his place, really locking it in the finals for tomorrow during Championship Sunday.
Yeah, and Alberto must be excited. You know, it came down in Oceania to a match between Alberto and Yuri, who ended up winning it. You know, a lot of players were predicting whoever actually won that match would be the winner of that championship. So, you know, Alberto, here you are. You get one more chance at an international championship to add to your title of, 3-time regional champion. So best of luck to him tomorrow. But, well, he needs an opponent, doesn't he?
He kind of needs an opponent. Only kind of.
I mean, I'm sure he'd like the free win, but, that's not how this tournament works.
No.
These players are so close already.
He still has to play one of the world's finest to win that title of international champion, and the winner of this next match will determine who that other finalist is. It is going to be between Carson Confer and Eric Rios. So these are the 2 remaining players that we need to play out before we can actually see who goes to the finals. This is such an international bracket. Carson Confer, in his top 8 match, had to go up against Alex Gomez. Well, now he has to face off against the exact same team because Eric Rios and Alex Gomez are friends. And, I can't keep saying this enough. Friendship is important. Yeah, I mean, Alberto was able to go all the way to the finals due to the power of friendship. The big question is, will the power of friendship also be on Eric's side? You have to remember, this is going to be the third time that Carson's playing the same exact team over the past 2 days. You know, once in the last round of Swiss today, once earlier in top 8, and now once in top 4. The important thing to note is that, you know, Eric did beat him when playing this team yesterday in Swiss, and then Carson came in this morning and beat Alex Gomez with it. So whether or not Eric is going to be able to beat Carson again is to be determined. I mean, there is so much on the line right now, and Carson didn't even really want to talk about his strategy facing this team. You know, I don't even think we saw half of it in that top 8 match against Alex.
And Eric gave a very, I guess, would you say like,
confident?
No, cryptic, I guess. Cryptic, would you say that?
It's
kind of like a hidden meaning there, saying that his team still has tricks up its sleeve. So I'm excited to see if those are the tricks that he has to pull out to try to beat Carson's adjustments when facing off against his team against Alex Gomez.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's important to highlight here is we don't really get to see this kind of matchup play up so many times that often in this metagame. Maybe it happened a few years ago, if some people remember 2015 and the reign of Mega Kangaskhan, if you will. There was a lot of this, well, we're seeing the same team play each other again and again and again. And, you know, this is a really great opportunity, I think, to focus more on the trainers' mindsets going into a game and focus on, you know, the strategy rather than so much the Pokemon on the field.
I think I just heard you say weather, and I think I just heard you say rain, which is actually the team that Carson's actually going to be running.
That was totally unintentional, but I'm going to take credit for it and say it was intentional.
What a segue, huh?
I know. That was great. That was great.
Yeah, so
this
it's going to be...
This is why we're best friends.
Best friends in the whole wide world. Of course, Carson Confer running that team with Politoed Ludicolo, the very traditional Rain team. You know, Rain kind of disappeared, but it's back.
It's back and better than ever, which is kind of funny because, you know, Politoed and Ludicolo are kind of the original Pokemon that you would run on a Rain team.
Well, in 2012.
In 2012.
Before that, it was like Jolteon or even Vaporeon and Ludicolo.
Okay,
maybe even Kingdra somewhere, but...
No, Kingdra's still
that
relevant.
I just aged myself
It's
as to how long I've been around in this community.
It's okay, but, you know, to bring things back into the present, it has a nice sort of modern twist on it, if you will, with the inclusion of that Tapu Koko, but the Caesar holding the Mega Stone and the Bisharp and the Landorus just all together, they all benefit from the rain, you know. The Caesar and the Bisharp cannot take any super effective fire attacks without the help of that drizzle, you know, weakening the power of fire. And Landorus just loves being able to sort of sit out on the field and just do Landorus things, really.
Yep, and of course Tapu Koko is actually using the Thunder move instead of just that puny, tiny little Thunderbolt, you know?
It's so crazy powerful, and really, I think Rain is the only time when you have confidence in the consistency of it to actually bring it into battle. You have to remember, you know, Thunder is not the most accurate move in exchange for its power.
But it's 100% accurate in the rain.
It is, and that is the beauty of weather mechanics.
Yeah, and it will actually bypass all evasion checks, actually, I believe, thanks to that mechanic. Of course, Carson, seasoned veteran, even though he is still a young player. 2016 Senior Division World Champion, following that up with a strong 2017 campaign and a great, amazing 2018 campaign, already making it to top 4 of the European International Championships, and of course top 4 at the Dallas Regional Championships. He's always up there in the top 8 of the North American Championship point standings.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the trainers to beat if you're thinking about, you know, what the metagame is going to look like, what these trainers are going to look like going into the North American International Championships coming up in July and potentially even the World Championships in August.
Of course, across from Carson is his opponent. They have already faced off before. It is Eric Rios, also a young player as well. 2014 top 4 in the World Championships in the senior division, got a top 8 finish at the United Kingdom National Championships. In 2017, he was the champion of the Milan special event and got a top 8 at the special event in Bilbao. So he is going to be running that team that we have already seen before with that Milotic, that Landorus, that Charizard X, that Mimikyu, that Snorlax, and that Tapu Koko. Of course, that lead of Mimikyu and Snorlax just broke Carson down.
you have to wonder, will Eric continue to lead that Mimikyu and Snorlax throughout the potential 3 games we're going to see moving forwards? You know, I wouldn't be surprised if game 1 he does decide to go with that because, you know, we have seen him able to win with that lead before. His friend Alex wasn't as, you know, fortunate, but he can do it. And, you know, maybe after that going into game 2, try to mix things up, catch Carson off guard, maybe something that he hasn't really considered otherwise. So, I don't know. We've seen this play out so many times, and we've seen Carson and Alex and maybe even Eric sort of follow a very similar strategy all of these times. You know, I'm really hoping that one of these trainers just decides to completely mix things up, maybe reveal one of the tricks that Eric was alluding to earlier in his interview on stream, and, you know, put on a great show. This is going to be an amazing battle regardless of what happens, even if it does look like we're seeing the same game play out, because we're going to have to focus more on the mindsets of these trainers, the strategy that they're bringing into this game, more than anything else.
How have these players adjusted? That's going to be the question to ask. Again, for Carson, the keys to being able to take this away from Eric is going to be able to break that Snorlax and Mimikyu. Eric, of course, well, it's the opposite. He wants to try to get that Snorlax easily set up and able to start picking up KOs every single turn. So here we go, jumping into the top 4, the last semifinal with these Elite 4 trainers trying to come down to see who are going to be our finalists.
So again, for those of you just joining us at home, we have Carson on the left-hand side of your screen with that Rain team, the Ludicolo, the Politoed, the Landorus Therian, the Bisharp, the Tapu Koko, and the Caesar.
Yeah, so one thing that Alex, I believe, actually struggled with coming into this matchup was just simply the fact that that Mimikyu was not out on the field anymore to go for Destiny Bonds, right?
No, it was not.
To be able to redirect those attacks away, so it couldn't draw away that Encore, which allowed Politoed to just exert so much pressure with that Encore from onto that Snorlax after it sets up.
Yeah, that Mimikyu was a little bit too eager, I think, to use the Z Destiny Bond turn 1. I mean, it does guarantee that Snorlax is able to belly drum right away, and again, that is where most of the momentum from this team, as we've seen it so far, comes from. So I think if Eric is looking to mix things up, maybe bluff it. You know, lead that Snorlax and that Mimikyu. Hope that your opponent Carson goes for the same moves that he's gone for 4, 5, 6 times already against this lead, and do your best to, you know, outpredict that.
But you do also have to respect the Z Destiny Bond off the first turn. You know, you don't want to get your Snorlax knocked off and lose that berry, unable to heal back up, so that's almost as bad too. Ludicolo here, we go. Going with the fake out. Gonna go ahead and make that Snorlax flinch here, and it looks like the Ghost CMZ is gonna go ahead and activate on this Mimikyu here, and that is actually going to be a Z Destiny Bond because of the fact that it is going to draw away all of the attention here and try to drag a foe down with it, but its disguise isn't busted yet, so it's going to just get it busted right here with the Iron Head from that Bisharp.
And that's the perfect adjustment from Carson. He stopped the belly drum turn 1. He forced Eric to use his Z move, and yes, that Destiny Bond will be active until that Mimikyu is able to attack again in the next turn, but there's nothing forcing him to attack the Mimikyu right now. He can simply just, you know, use knockoff on that Snorlax, get rid of that berry right now. He can maybe even switch in that Politoed, go for a very powerful Z move into that Snorlax like we've seen him do in other games. That was the perfect adjustment, and it was so subtle. You know, he didn't have to change his leads. He didn't have to really change his overall strategy. He just had to make sure that he only busted the disguise and he did not do any additional damage.
Ludicolo now switching out. Politoed is going to take the field here. It is going to activate its Drizzle ability here and bring out the Rain, going to boost those Scalds from that Politoed and also exert pressure with that Encore that we've already seen. Mimikyu now using Shadow Claw. It is going to hit into what was that Ludicolo saw, but Politoed is a lot more bulky. It is actually going to go ahead and use that eject button and switch right back out. This is actually an opportunity for Bisharp to be able to go for a knockoff here on that Snorlax or even get a KO on that Mimikyu.
And Carson can send the Ludicolo right back in, and now it has the Rain supporting it. You know, the Swift Swim ability will double its speed, and he doesn't have to give out any other information about what Pokemon he brought in the back. You know, he was very conservative about that last Pokemon when we saw him play Alex earlier, and it looks like he's going to keep up that strategy again, at least for now.
And Ludicolo is going to take the field here. Bisharp using knockoff, going to knock off that berry, the Aguav berry from that Snorlax, and Snorlax not using this turn to set up at all. Just going to go for a return in that Ludicolo slot, doing a good amount of damage. So now this Ludicolo does have access to Fake Out, and it also has access to a very powerful Hydro Vortex here.
Yeah, it's important to note as well that the combination of that Shadow Claw and that return minus the Belly Drum could have been enough to knock out that Ludicolo outright. It's hard to eyeball it for sure because Politoed is much more of a bulkier Pokemon than Ludicolo, and there was that critical hit in play as well. But, you know, I think it would have been close, and that's something that Carson's going to have to worry about in Game 2 if he hopes to try and use the same sort of fake-out strategy we saw him use now. And we do learn his 4th Pokemon right off the bat.
It is that Tapu Koko. It is going to go ahead and activate the Electric Surge, bringing out the Electric Terrain to boost that rain-boosted Thunder here. Mimikyu using Destiny Bond, but it's not as dangerous as that Z Destiny Bond because it does not have that follow me mechanic with it. Bisharp now using Iron Head. It's going to go into that Mimikyu slot, and that is going to go ahead and drag it down. But, you know, I think Bisharp has already done its job. It's already knocked off of the berry of that Snorlax, and here comes Snorlax, going to be able to go for an attack, a return into the... Yep, it's a return into that Tapu Koko. Going to be able to do good damage because Carson just doesn't really have that Lancerian in the back to intimidate it.
No, and I think it's important to note that if I were in Eric's shoes, Belly Drum is now the thing that you don't want to do. I think the thing that makes Belly Drum so scary is the fact that you can use it and get your health back thanks to the Pinch Berry. In this case, the Aguav Berry that we saw Snorlax unfortunately drop earlier. Now that that berry is gone, I think because the Snorlax is doing so much damage as it is with those returns, I mean, we saw it deal over half to the Ludicolo, over half to the Tapu Koko. It just needs to stay on the field and do damage. Right now, I think a Protect would be his best option. I think if I were Carson, I'd be tempted to try and use that Z move on the Snorlax to pick up the knockout, and then maybe you try the Thunder on the Tapu Koko since the terrain and the rain are up in its favor. And hope that that's going to be enough. I mean, we know that there's the Politoed in the back. The Tapu Koko is certainly the biggest threat on the field in terms of dealing with that. So
and here comes the Hydro Vortex. Another option is also for this Hydro Vortex to land in that Tapu Koko slot and allow Tapu Koko's Thunder to maybe get the KO on that Snorlax. It's going to be close as to how much damage it's going to do. Here comes Ludicolo's Hydro Vortex in the rain. Going to go ahead and get the KO on that Tapu Koko right there. Big damage from that Ludicolo, and that's one great thing about Ludicolo as your Z-move user, just the fact that it will outspeed everything and get some KOs. And here comes Tapu Koko's Thunder. Is it going to be enough to get the KO on the Snorlax from this range? That's also good information to know how bulky the Snorlax is, and it is not enough. Just barely hang on. Snorlax does get one more return, going to get the KO on the Ludicolo. But Tapu Koko is still going to be able to go for powerful rain-boosted Thunders.
Tapu Koko is still going to be able to use powerful rain boost Thunders, and we know that Politoed is faster than that Snorlax from the previous games. So this is where it gets scary because Politoed is being sent out back onto the field. Rain is currently active, and Charizard has not... Oh, wait, but it's Charizard X, so
That's
never
right,
mind.
yeah.
Rain will still be on the field, but it's still sort of a very scary spot for this Charizard to be in. I think that, you know, the Tapu Koko's Thunder, we've seen it deal a ton of damage to that Charizard. If it's able to knock it out this turn before it's able to knock out either the Politoed or the Tapu Koko, you know, that Snorlax is going to go down either this turn or next, and really the game one will go in Carson's favor. It's all going to come down to how much damage this Thunder does to Charizard. Will it be able to knock it out in one hit? Will Charizard protect and then, you know, maybe stall out the rain and get lucky with a couple of dodges?
There's one more turn of rain, too. So
yeah.
Carson right here, unfortunately, the Politoed could not come in just at the right time. Charizard does use Protect, does not want to take that 100% accurate Thunder in the rain. Snorlax also opting to Protect here as well. So now it's going to come down to whether or not Tapu Koko can do enough damage to this Charizard Y with the Thunder. Is it going to be able to hit later on as well? Charizard X is going to have a huge decision to make here on who Charizard X goes for in terms of what's the bigger threat.
Yeah, so Rain is going to stay on the field for one more turn, but I don't know if you noticed that. We didn't see the Thunder from the Tapu Koko.
Sorry, I counted my turns wrong.
Instead, you know, going for a Dazzling Gleam, I think Carson, thinking that the Charizard Protect was going to happen that turn and sort of covered his bases. You know, the Scald going into the Protect, not as big of a deal as the Thunder going into the Protect. So now, Dazzling Gleam to pick up the knockout.
Oh, a critical hit on that Charizard. That's big damage right there.
That's big damage, and that actually might put Charizard in range to getting knocked out by this Politoed Scald if it's not...
No, actually, Thunder Punch into that Tapu Koko instead. So now Politoed is going to be able to go for a Scald, but is that going to be enough to get the KO from this range?
That Thunder Punch will definitely be able to knock it out.
Charizard gets knocked out. Wow.
Oh.
Big damage from that Politoed. Politoed was so clutch for Carson to get that KO. You know, it was pretty close. I think even Eric was kind of disappointed that was able to get the KO. Well, obviously he was, but he was surprised that that got the KO.
Yeah, if Rain had run out the turn before, maybe he miscounted as well. I mean, we did. Yes, that Charizard probably would have been able to take that Scald, and then the victory would have gone to him. But, here we are, Carson just knowing this team inside and out. I mean, he's played it so many times, you have to wonder, is that an advantage? Eric's only played him twice. Alex only played him twice, but Carson now, this is his 6th time battling this team.
That's crazy.
Isn't it crazy?
That's crazy.
And the fact that he was able to do such a good job, I think, of making a very subtle adjustment with that fake out in that turn 1. That is the kind of thing you want to do when you're playing the same thing over and over again. You want to make subtle things because big changes make your opponent think, oh, obviously something else has changed, so maybe I should pay a little more attention. But doing something very subtle like that fake out and not allowing that Snorlax to attack was definitely huge. And these trainers just locked into their teams in the time it took me to finish that sentence.
They already know what they want to do, but going back to what happened in the final moments of that game, if you think about it, if that Charizard actually went for the Thunder Punch on that Politoed, Tapu Koko would have had to rely on a 100% or maybe a not 100% accurate Thunder to be able to get that rest of the damage dealt onto that Charizard. So, that Dazzling Gleam only did 50% right there because of the fact that it was a critical hit.
Yes,
even if it is single target, I don't think it would have been enough to do 50% to that Charizard. So maybe Eric just had to position himself differently, but here we go into game 2 between these two players. And it looks like both players are actually making big adjustments here. Politoed and Caesar are the Pokemon that Carson leads with. Charizard and Tapu Koko are the Pokemon that Eric decides to lead with.
All right, so finally I think we're playing a different game of Pokemon here. So, hey, this is great. I love this adjustment by both these trainers. I think Tapu Koko and Charizard are certainly a way more offensive front from Eric. I think that he's kind of, limited himself with that Z Destiny Bond in the previous game. And now he has the, the ability potentially to Volt Switch and adjust from that Tapu Koko. We've seen that Charizard sort of hang around a lot. The Flare Blitz, even with the rain up, honestly, probably terrifies that Mega Caesar. It is 4 times weak to fire. And Flare Blitz is such a powerful attack.
And it gets a Tough Claws boost as well. So
and it gets a Tough Claws boost as well.
Caesar actually leaves here. Ludicolo is going to come in.
You can understand why.
But at the same time, this actually opens up an opportunity for Eric to go heavy on this offense right now. Thunder Punch boosted by the Electric Terrain with that Tough Claws boost. No Intimidate, that is enough for the one-hit KO on that Politoed. So that Politoed is actually forced to protect. Tapu Koko can also threaten heavily as well. Looks like here comes a Gigavolt Havoc. So looks like Eric, I can't tell exactly what that reaction is. Perhaps it is probably going to be going into that Politoed Protect.
They both look really nervous right now.
And then the Flare Blitz is probably going into that Caesar slot, but who knows? These players are better than we are. Gigavolt Havoc now being released from this Tapu Koko, boosted by the Electric Train into that Ludicolo slot.
Ludicolo. If this knocks that Ludicolo out, that could be huge.
That is it.
Carson's ability to use a Z move has now been removed, and he's been using that Z move so much for damage on that Snorlax. If Eric has that in the back, this could be the opening he's been looking for to bring us into a Game 3.
Yeah, and wow, that is such a huge knockout right there. Carson pretty much gave up that Ludicolo for free, scared that Caesar would get KO'd. Although, to be fair, a Gigavolt Havoc boosted by the Electric Train also probably could have gotten a KO.
Yeah, you have to wonder at that point how much the Bullet Punch would have done to that Tapu Koko. It probably wouldn't have been enough for a knockout. Maybe the combination of that plus a Scald from the Politoed. But, I think that Carson sending in the Tapu Koko here is good for him. He really needs to knock out the Charizard this turn, and Helping Hand Thunder, if anything's going to do it, that probably would be it.
Tapu Koko instead just goes for a Helping Hand with that Dazzling Gleam, doing way over, about the same as the critical hit. Big damage to that Tapu Koko as well. And the Tapu Koko over on Eric's side goes for a Volt Switch, going to hit into that Politoed. Politoed is actually going to be able to get out of there, though. Scissor is going to be forced to come right back in and can actually take that Thunder Punch a lot better, but maybe Charizard just decided to go with the Flare Blitz. Yeah.
I mean, we know that the Politoed has the eject button. We've seen it several times already.
Here's the Flare Blitz. Where's it going to go, though? Is it going to go for the Tapu Koko, or is it going to go? Yep, it's into the Scissor.
He called it. He called it.
Well, yeah. Well, the eject button, that's right. Yeah.
That was just so well done, though. I mean, you have to...
Oh, Charizard almost KOs itself, but, another Dazzling Gleam should be able to get the double KO here versus Tapu Koko and that Politoed still remaining.
You have to think, maybe Carson was going for the Dazzling Gleam there, hoping that the Helping Hand would bring both these Pokemon down into Bullet Punch knockout range. But Eric utilizing the eject button against him, that's such a clever idea. He knew all 4 of Carson's Pokemon. He knew that the Politoed had the eject button, and he knew that the Scizor had to return to the field when the Politoed was switched out. So just an incredible play.
Some tricks.
Some tricks. Those are the tricks.
Tapu Koko over on Eric's side, protecting himself, not wanting to get KO just yet. Tapu Koko on Carson's side, connecting with the Dazzling Gleam onto that Charizard. Gets the KO. Politoed is going to get to move, but not sure if it has anything to set up, so it's not that dangerous for Eric to try to get out a fresh Pokemon to help deal with Carson Conference Pokemon right now.
Yeah, using that Scald there I think was his best choice because, you know, if it caught a switch, then yes, that would be some chip damage, and it would have been nice with the rain boost, but overall, Eric keeping the Tapu Koko safe, and the Tapu Koko does a great job of, you know, threatening the Pokemon on Carson's side of the field by itself. With the appearance of Mimikyu on the field, you have to wonder, is that Snorlax lurking in the back?
Probably, and now Carson just doesn't have what it takes, I think, to deal with that Snorlax, because even if that Snorlax doesn't go for any belly drums or anything like that, returns will probably just get KOs on Politoed. As long as you can get some more chip damage down on that Tapu Koko, should be able to do the same.
Oh, definitely. Like, without a doubt, Helping Hand Thunder might be the one thing to be afraid of for Eric in terms of that Snorlax, but there's only 2 turns of rain left. I mean, these 2 Pokemon on their own, the Mimikyu and the Tapu Koko, could stall for enough time for that.
Here comes a Dazzling Gleam. It gets the KO and busts the disguise on the Mimikyu. Now, Politoed is going to be able to move, but Mimikyu can actually just go for a Shadow Claw here and probably get the KO on that Politoed since it's not intimidated at all.
Unless it gets burned.
That's true. Politoed actually moves first. Maybe this is actually going to be
Oh, he got it!
But it's going to be a Trick Room coming up, though.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're
Yep.
right, because that is a fast Mimikyu.
That is a fast Mimikyu. So Mimikyu sets up Trick Room.
I'm so caught
You're
up
so
in
into
the
this
hype.
right now. All these,
my
all these
gosh.
tricks that we're seeing.
This is honestly like one of the hypest matches I think we've seen all weekend. This is just so incredible. These, you know, we've seen this game play out so many times, yet here we are. It's a completely different game. Mimikyu able to get that Trick Room up. The Snorlax now out onto the field. Unless this is an absurdly slow Politoed versus a, you know, maybe somewhat fast Snorlax.
It isn't. This Politoed should be able to, well, normally outspeeds it. This one means that Snorlax will definitely underspeed it. Tapu Koko on Carson's side, going to protect itself here. Not going to want to get KO'd. Snorlax going for the return, though. Targets down that Politoed, and that is the KO right there. So it looks like Eric is actually going to be able to force a Game 3 right now, as Mimikyu just uses Destiny Bond right here. So even if... So in order for Carson to win here, he has to be able to KO that Snorlax first, and then just wait for a turn where the Mimikyu just can't go for a Destiny Bond.
Yes, and I think that's a very tall order. I mean, even that Mimikyu with the combination of the return, I mean, if Tapu Koko is able to hold on, it's going to be with such low health. A burned Shadow Claw might do enough to knock it out, and Shadow Claw does have a high critical hit rate as well, so I feel pretty confident that we're going to be seeing a Game 3 coming up
And
next.
here comes that Shadow Claw to, I guess, just send this to a Game 3 here between Eric Rios and Carson Confer. Eric has made some adjustments. He has shown that he can actually adapt to not having to lead with Mimikyu and Snorlax. So, wow.
That was insane.
Game 3, here we come.
I mean, where do you even go after that in terms of adjustments? I mean, I think if I were Eric, I would probably not lead the Mimikyu Snorlax again. That just worked out so well for him, having that in the back, bringing such an offensive lead. You know, that Charizard Tapu Koko using the eject button against the Politoed on Carson's side of the field, just so well played. I think Carson tried to, you know, maybe catch his Eric off guard with that Mimikyu Snorlax lead again with the Politoed Scizor. You know, Scizor has that Bug Bite, can eat the berry. Politoed, you know, has some tricks of its own, but I don't think that's really going to be the best lead for him moving forwards. And I don't really think the Bisharp that he's been relying on as a lead either would have done well against that Tapu Koko Charizard. I think Carson might have to come up with something completely different.
I think you actually just had to lead with Politoed and Ludicolo.
Yeah.
One thing that really was detrimental to Carson's game plan was just the fact that, you know, the leads were just not in his favor. You know, the Scizor and the Politoed, easy 2 one-hit KOs right there with the Thunder Punch and that Gigavolt Havoc in that Scizor slot. So, you know, Carson's going to have to not give up that Ludicolo so easily. You know, Ludicolo is a very strong threat here because of the fact that it gets to go for a rain-boosted Hydro Vortex so long as the conditions are just right.
Yeah, and being forced to sort of switch around to get that Politoed onto the field and not being able to take advantage of that rain from turn 1, I think is definitely something that Carson needs to amend going into this Game 3. I mean, worst case scenario, the Ludicolo does have Fake Out and the Politoed does have Eject Button, so if Eric attacks into that Politoed, he does have an opportunity to sort of switch up his board position so that he has a better spot going into game 2. But you have to wonder, after seeing Eric use that against him so beautifully in game 2, if he's even willing to try something like that. I mean, that's the kind of play that can really kind of mess with your head. And, you know, as I've been saying, this is one of those games where we've seen this play out so many times. It's all in their heads.
And the players actually took a lot of time here trying to figure out what they want to do against this battle. So this is it. Winner of this moves on to the finals. The loser, unfortunately, has to bow out of the tournament, although they are still a part of the Elite Four here at the Latin American International Championships. Give it up for both of these players here. They have done so well, and they are giving us one really good battle. Oh boy.
Oh,
all right.
boy. Oh, boy.
Eric, going back to the bread and butter of this team, the Snorlax and the Mimikyu, Ludicolo and Politoed are the leads that Carson decides to go with. So no Bisharp or Scizor to provide support to maybe break through this Snorlax and Mimikyu wall, but we'll have to figure out if Carson has any way to do it with just the Politoed and the Ludicolo.
You have to think, you know, a helping hand Hydro Vortex probably would be enough to knock out anything, especially with that rain boost. And that should go before the Z Destiny Bond from the Mimikyu. So if Carson wanted to take a big risk and just, you know, go for one crazy attack to shut down that Snorlax, that would be what he should do. But I think this fake out is a lot safer.
Ludicolo now using that fake out, going to make the Snorlax flinch, and it appears that the Ghost CMZ is going to activate on the Mimikyu here. It is going to become the center of attention, so it is going to be using that Z Destiny Bond right there. So it's going to be drawing it, but the fake out's already come out and landed onto that Snorlax slot. Politoed goes for a Scald here. It does connect onto that Mimikyu. Going to bust the disguise. Is there going to be a burn? No, there is not going to be a burn, so Mimikyu now just vulnerable. So actually here is a good turn to possibly go for that helping hand Hydro Vortex, but of course Snorlax has Protect.
Snorlax does have Protect. I'm really surprised we saw the Z Destiny Bond again from Eric. I felt like that was too safe of a play for him, honestly. I would have loved to see, you know, we know that that Mimikyu has Shadow Claw, maybe a never-ending nightmare to try and knock out that Ludicolo. I mean, that is the Pokemon that Carson's going to be looking to, I think, again and again in this Game 3 to, you know, break through the wall that the Snorlax is on the field right now. You know, the Mimikyu's disguise was busted. Yes, Destiny Bond is still up, and yes, Carson might have to, you know, give up one of his Pokemon in order to remove it from the field. But
Snorlax now using Protect, and it looks like Mimikyu is going to go for a Trick Room here. But Ludicolo actually goes for a Hydro Pump into that Mimikyu. But doesn't even get enough to get the KO. Politoed going to go for a Scald into that Mimikyu slot as well. Going to prevent Trick Room from coming up, but hey, you know what's important? The fact that the Mimikyu was not able to go for the Trick Room. So that is actually a smart knockout right there from Carson.
It is a smart knockout, but it was at the cost of his Politoed, who we've seen do, you know, a really good job of supporting this Ludicolo. If he has two very strong attackers in the back, maybe the return of that Tapu Koko and something else, I think that would be, you know, this is the when you want to send that out onto the field right now and just hope that the Hydro Vortex and Thunder would be enough. But he's sending in the Scizor, the Mega Scizor, to stare off against this Charizard. Not
that bad of a position, though, because that Ludicolo does still threaten with the Hydro Vortex in that Charizard slot, allowing Scizor an opportunity to actually go for the Bug Bite on that Snorlax.
That is very true. That is very true. And then after the Bug Bite, you just hope that the Snorlax without the Belly Drum boost is going to be enough to... Oh!
Milotic is actually the option that Eric decides to use to adjust to Carson here. Scizor is going to Mega Evolve. It is going to get that Technician ability here. Going to go ahead and boost all moves that Space Power is 60 or below.
So it's a very fun tech for Scizor, but first I think we're going to see that Hydro Vortex. I really am curious to see if this is going to connect with that Milotic or not, because if it does connect with that Milotic, that was just an amazing you know, synergy switch from Eric's side of the field.
Yeah, Eric baited that Hydro Vortex coming into that slot.
He definitely baited that. And he did, yeah. That's going right into that Milotic. So Milotic more than happy to, you know, hang on after such a powerful water type attack. Might even have like Recover or something to be able to shrug off that damage in a future turn.
And here comes the Bug Bite from that Scizor. It is going to go ahead and steal that berry from that Snorlax. Hey, that's Snorlax's berries. Scizor, stop that. Return from Ludicolo with a critical hit. Hangs on with just 10 hit points. So wow. All right, here we go. this is still troublesome because the Hydro Vortex is gone, no longer able to be used against that Mega Charizard X.
And there's only 2 more turns of Rain left, and Politoed has been removed from the field. So if Tapu Koko is the last Pokemon, standing for Carson after this Ludicolo is knocked out, yes, it'll have a couple of turns to use that Thunder with 100% accuracy, but, which trainer is going on to the finals here in Sao Paulo could be determined by, a Thunder accuracy roll. This is going to go down to the wire, really. I mean, if Hydro Pump is able to connect here, maybe it could knock out that Snorlax, Energy Ball.
Hits that Milotic, does not get the KO. Milotic's just going to go ahead and eat that berry and heal back 50% of its health.
Well.
Yeah, so that's devastating to see. Just barely whiffing the KO there. Milotic now using Scald, boosted by Carson's own Rain, doing good damage to that Scissor. No burn right there, and Scissor here just going to go ahead and try to set up a Swords Dance. Going to boost its attack by 2 stages here. Snorlax now using Return, going to target down this Ludicolo and get the KO. So now Carson's last Pokemon is going to be sent out. Has to be able to deal with that Charizard X in the back because Scissor doesn't really do that good of a job doing so.
No, it does not. And more importantly, Eric is going to have an entire turn to try and knock out this Scizor because this Tapu Koko, there is no way that a Dazzling Gleam is going to knock out, both this Milotic and that Snorlax. One thing that Carson could do here is he could use the Thunder. Maybe try to target down that Milotic. I mean, certainly the weakness to the electric type is tempting, but I would honestly try to double into that Snorlax because that Scizor is going to have a better matchup against that Milotic, especially after that Swords Dance, as you consider future turns in the game. But then if you're on Eric's side of the field, we know that Snorlax has Protect. If he's able to catch Carson off guard with it right now, that could be the turn that ultimately will send him into the finals, allowing the Milotic to pick up a knockout. But instead, it's that Milotic that's going to be protecting first this turn.
Yeah, Milotic protects here. Tapu Koko uses Thunder into that Milotic Protect. Bug Bite from that Scizor. It is going to target down that Snorlax. Should get the KO right there. Already ate that berry, but its damage is actually not a determinant, just like Knockoff. The Rain stops here. Now it's going to come down to the Charizard X in the back for Eric. Charizard X and Milotic versus this Tapu Koko and this Mega Scissor over on Carson's side. This is it, everybody.
This is too intense, honestly. I mean, we've seen that Dazzling Gleam do about 30 to 40% damage on that Charizard, 50 if it's a critical hit. So maybe the play is you go for the Bullet Punch and Dazzling Gleam onto, the Bullet Punch onto the Milotic, hoping that the combination of those two would be enough to knock it out. And then just pray that this Tapu Koko is going to be able to knock out this Charizard before it's able to knock it out with something like a Flare Blitz. Because remember, that Flare Blitz is no longer weakened by the Rain. And barring another Dazzling Gleam critical hit, Tapu Koko could potentially need 3 turns to get the knockout on that Charizard. Or you risk the Thunder. It's really hard to say. I think Carson is a safe player. I don't think he really takes unnecessary risks like that. So we'll have to see how the damage is going to be paid out.
Here we go. Tapu Koko protects. Anticlimactic a little bit.
No,
but
it's
here
not.
we go.
This could be it.
Charizard using Flare Blitz. That is going to go into the Tapu Koko slot. Milotic uses Scald here. It is going to connect. No longer Rain boosted. Scissor holds
What
on.
if it burns?
No burn.
Oh
Bug
my
Bite
gosh.
from the Scissor here. Targets down that Milotic. Is enough to get the KO. It is.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. That was insanely close. If that Scald would have burned that Scizor, then that honestly could have been game for Carson. I mean, he has the benefit now of being able to use Bullet Punch and, one of Tapu Koko's attacks on this Charizard. I don't think a Flare Blitz
Charizard can only also get 1 KO here too, so that's 2 turns of attacks here for Carson. Bullet Punch from the Scissor, boosted by Technician, and that Swords Dance connects on that Charizard. Does a good amount of damage for not very effective damage at all. Tapu Koko now uses Dazzling Gleam, hits that Charizard, does big damage, doesn't get the KO just yet, but that should do it for Carson Confer. Charizard uses Thunder Punch. That is going to hit down the Scissor and get the KO, but Tapu Koko now can easily just go for a Dazzling Gleam and get the KO. Carson Confer, you have made it to the finals here at the 2018 Latin American International Championships.
And such a crazy set that was as well. It just came down to the wire. It honestly came down to the wire. That was insane.
That was so close. That could have gone any way.
Wow.
Carson protecting that Tapu Koko instead of going on the offensive right there, whilst the Charizard targeted down that Tapu Koko was such a huge turn.
That was the deciding turn. If that Charizard had gone for the knockout with the Flare Blitz into that, Scizor, that Tapu Koko would have been forced to rely, I think, on Thunder to try and get the knockouts it needed to win the game. And, that would have made it just an accuracy roll. But Carson taking the risk, protecting his Tapu Koko, and allowing it eventually to go for the more accurate attack, those 2 dazzling gleams, was enough to bring him into the finals. And that's the kind of confidence, that's the kind of risk you have to make if you too want to be in the finals of one of these international championships.
I don't even think Carson can believe it right now. He had to face that team 7 times.
I can hardly believe it myself after watching him face that team 7 times.
But congratulations to Eric Rios. You know, that is a beautiful team that him and Alex Gomez piloted.
It is a crazy, beautiful team.
Absolutely
I keep saying crazy, but that's because I mean it. Like, it has so many interesting tricks to it. I mean, I think you heard it. We kind of lost it. At least I lost it a little bit at the game 2 with that one play with the polytoad and the eject button. But such a powerful team, so many different ways to play it, and just really well done by both him and Alex. You know, a top 8 and a top 4 finish at the same tournament is an incredible accomplishment. I mean, that means that despite the fact that, you know, multiple opponents must have known what kind of team it was going into that game, they were able to beat them.
Yeah.
And that is something that is very, very, very difficult to do.
Let's go ahead and look back a little bit. You know, games 1, 2, and
let's
3.
Maybe collect ourselves a little bit.
Let's relax a little bit, right? You know, game 1, obviously the key to that was definitely Carson trying to break that wall between you know, the Snorlax and Mimikyu that Alex loved to use and that just absolutely destroyed Carson yesterday. And, you know, Carson actually used the exact same way that he used to beat Alex Gomez in the top 8. So, you know, it was something that Carson was really used to, right? And he was able to break through that Mimikyu and that Snorlax with that Bisharp and that Ludicolo lead. So smart playing right there from Carson to just kind of use what worked in game 1. If not, then you can kind of try to adjust on the fly for game 2 and 3. But then game 2, Eric Rios just came back. He knew.
Mixed it up.
Mixed it up. Yep. He thought to himself, I need to change this up. I can't just allow this to happen again. And he did. That Snorlax and Mimikyu coming right out of the back, actually. You know, it allowed him a lot more time.
Yes, it did.
To be able to deal with all of the counters that Carson packed, to be able to deal with that Mimikyu and Snorlax. And that's one of the things that's scary about Trick Room coming out of the back.
And the other thing that's scary too, I think, is by saving that Snorlax and Mimikyu, I mean, Carson was in a position where he had to lead his counters to those 2 Pokemon every single game, or at least ensure that the Pokemon he did lead were able to at least deal with the threat that the Mimikyu and the Snorlax brought. So by saving them for later, you know, he really mixed things up. He was able to remove those counters from the field entirely, and I think that's what really gave him the opening.
Yep, and there's so much to talk about game 3. I mean, the moment where, you know, you freaked out a little bit at that moment where
my heart is still pounding.
Where the Mimikyu actually got KO'd and dragged the Politoed down, but that was actually a smart play from Carson in terms of, you know, stopping that Trick Room from coming up. Otherwise, that Snorlax would have just wreaked havoc all over Carson's team.
It's hard because, you know, you want to say that the rain needs to stay up on the field for the entirety of the game, and as soon as you lose Politoed and lose the ability to bring that rain back out onto the field, you know you're going to be at a disadvantage eventually. You know, I think Carson was probably a lot more confident in his Charizard X calculations than I necessarily was going into this game. You know, he knew that the combination of the Dazzling Gleams and the Swords Dance Bullet Punch most likely would be enough to knock out that Charizard, which then I think gives you a little bit more security. You know, one thing I love about Thunder is, yes, it's amazing once rain is up, but that really can hurt you when rain goes down, and you have to be very careful. But fortunately, you know, I think it's safe to say he prepared for this team, at least during the tournament, if not, you know, during some of the downtime we've had over the past couple of days. And I think he knew. I think he knew that that was an acceptable win condition, and giving up the Politoed at that point in time wasn't as detrimental as it originally appeared. So just seriously very, very, very well played. My mind is still reeling.
I know, and you know,
you can tell.
What an interesting turn of events. You know, Scissor being able to set up that Sword Sense, and then Carson just identifying his win condition. As long as I can get just Charizard on its own, it doesn't have a move that can actually pick up 2 KOs, and as long as I can continue to pile on that damage, I should have it. And you know what, Carson is in the finals.
Congratulations.
Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the bracket first to see exactly how this played out for Carson and Alberto, your 2 finalists from the United States of America.
I was going to say, I mean, we've come all the way down here to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and yet here we are commentating, you know, to people from the United States.
The crazy part is that the Latin American International Championships is going to be won by another player hailing from the United States of America. Obviously, they are all Americans, but this player is going to be hailing from the United States.
Yeah, so Wow, just what an exciting day. I think that Latin America, Spain, really the rest of the world, Singapore as well, put their best foot forward as we entered the top 8 earlier this morning. So many exciting games. Alex Gomez, Carson, the first time Carson beat this team today. It was really interesting to sort of see that match play out. And I want to say that the outcome of that match really influenced how Eric approached this game that we just saw.
Yeah, Eric definitely saw the matches between Alex and Carson and knew that Carson actually had a way to adjust to defeat that Mimikyu Snorlax, and Eric definitely adjusted. He showed us a couple of tricks. I'm not even sure if those were tricks because I don't know what the tricks are.
I hope they are tricks because I think I definitely freaked out saying that those are the tricks. That's going to be clipped somewhere. But anyways, it was such an exciting game both times.
And something that I like to mention that I, referred to at the beginning, seeds don't matter. Look at that. The 7th and the 8th seed are actually the ones in the finals. I guess you can call them like Cinderella stories, but they're not really because, once the seeds are really just to see who makes top cut and who you play. But once it comes down to it, it's just going to come down to how's your team going to do and how are you going to be able to, play against that player. I interviewed Alberto a little bit earlier, and he just said it might look that way on paper, but you never know. Like play style and how the Pokemon are actually trained are going to be important.
Yeah, I think that, I'd like to echo that sentiment as well. Your placement on the placement on the standings or the bracket is really more reflective of the day you had previously, not necessarily, what kind of Pokemon trainer you are. We have those, 2 losses for a reason. Pokemon is a luck-based game. Sometimes games just don't go your way. That doesn't mean you can't go into day 2, in Top Cut and make it into the finals, as we've seen. It's just such an amazing story and such an amazing game. And, I would really love to talk to Carson a little bit about that crazy match that we just saw.
I think you absolutely would, Gabby. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, an interview with your other finalist, Carson Confer of the United States of America. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, Pokemon trainers, to the 2018 Pokemon Latin America International Championships. My name is Gabby Snyder, and I'm joined by your second finalist here in Brazil, Carson Confer. How do you feel right now?
I'm honestly kind of exhausted. Like, that was an awful matchup for me, and playing it 3 rounds in a row was just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, let's go all the way back to yesterday, the first time you played this matchup. I mean, it appeared to be a very rough loss for you. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, I got 1 game off of him, but I just kind of got destroyed the other 2, so I wasn't really looking forward to playing it 2 times in a row.
All right, so last night, how did you prepare knowing that your first round opponent was running the same team, and then your second top 4 opponent could potentially also be running the same team as well?
So with my friend Justin and Stratos, we played a ton of games online, just every kind of possible scenario that could happen, and we just worked on it until I felt confident enough.
All right, so going into top 8, what was your game plan in terms of strategy? Since I know you didn't want to talk about it earlier, I figure let's talk about it now.
Yeah, so the first game of top 8, I knew that Ludicolo plus Bisharp, and then just Ice Beam Iron Head the Mimikyu turn 1 would auto win me the game if he wasn't expecting it, which he wasn't. And that's why game 1 was so clean, so fast. But then game 2, he made the perfect adjustment, and it was the one play that messes with my flowchart, and I had to get that Scald Burn to win.
So you mentioned flowchart. I mean, I know this is something that has been sort of relevant in past metagames. Is that how you sort of approach, these battles? You think about all the possible options and you come up with a flowchart beforehand, or is it something that you come up with on the fly?
I usually don't do that, but because Mimikyu Snorlax is similar to in 2016 Smeargle Xerneas, which was the main thing you would flowchart for. I feel like I had to flowchart for this matchup too.
Well, I think it definitely paid off. So let's go back to before top 4. You knew that you were going to be playing the same team again at that point. Were you planning any adjustments, or were you expecting Eric to sort of change how that team was going to be played in response to how you played Alex in top 8?
I expected Eric to do the exact same thing that Alex did the second game, because I only won the second game off of luck, frankly. And so my friends and I kind of just prepared off of that.
Right, so game 1, you basically got the Mimikyu Snorlax lead that I'm assuming you wanted. You were able to use Fake Out to stop the belly drum, and it seemed like everything went according to plan. What about game 2? What was your mindset going into that, and how did you react once you saw the lead from Eric?
I really thought he would lead Mimolax again, and so when I saw Coco Zard, I knew I was kind of screwed over and that I was going to have a really tough time. And then he read every single one of my switches perfectly, and yeah, it was bad.
So then how did you recover for going into game 3?
I knew I had to prepare for the Coco Zard lead, so that's why I brought the Rain lead. But then he led Mimolax, and I was kind of expecting him to do that, so I had to come up with a new flowchart because that was the one thing that I didn't prepare for, leading Rain into Mimolax.
So what was your plan then? Were you expecting to lose the Politoed so early? Were you going to try to keep it safe? I mean, you knew that you had the Tapu Koko in the back, so that must have felt pretty good that you had at least one other heavy hitter other than that Ludicolo. I was going to call it a Landorus for some reason.
Yeah, I really wanted to deny the Trick Room, so when he used Z Destiny Bond on the first turn, I was pretty happy with that because I got the Fake Out and then broke the Disguise. And then the second turn, that was probably the best read I made the whole set, with the Hydro Pump to put it just in range of Scald so that I didn't lose my Ludicolo to Destiny Bond. So if that missed or crit, I was going to lose that game.
So you basically used the fact that Mimikyu had used Z Destiny Bond the turn before to prevent it from using Trick Room this turn, because you knew that it would be slower at that point and Politoed would be able to knock it out before it would attack. Wow. Okay, that's a lot to keep track of, and my mind is still buzzing from that last game. So let's fast forward a little bit to the latter turns. That protect from the Tapu Koko to stop the Flare Blitz. What was going through your mind then?
I knew that he had to target the Tapu Koko, or Dazzling Gleam plus +2 Bullet Punch would just be too much. But it turns out that I could have actually just Volt Switched the Melodic and Bullet Punched, and then from Flare Blitz recoil, he would have died to any attack.
All right, well, it seems like you had your whole plan lined out and it worked out really well. So congratulations. How are you going to prepare for tomorrow? Any ideas yet?
I'm probably going to watch the replay of the stream, just see what Alberto used, and then go from there.
All right, well, best of luck. Rest up if you can, and I'm so excited to see you and Alberto play it out tomorrow for the title of the international champion here in Latin America. So thank you so much for your time, and we will be back after a break. Thank you all for watching.
changed my life far more than I ever thought it would. It's in a weird way almost kind of become part of my identity. Outside of my wife, it probably is the biggest part of my life right now.
I always like kind of look at or think about what my life would be like without it, and it's hard to even think about that or imagine that just because it's so important to everything.
Like a couple of years ago, I couldn't have sat talking to you like this, like I am today. It's helped me find my confidence, and it's helped me, become more comfortable in myself.
After all these years, it's still going strong and arguably going even stronger than when we were first getting back into it. Pokemon just is my life. I'm Josh Wittenkeller. Some of you guys might know me as Jay Witts, and I'm a Pokemon trading card game caster. I played pretty much straight from day one. The first day that people had cards at school, I immediately went home, talked to my dad. I was like, hey, this looks really cool. Let's play it. We played all the time. We went to leagues. We built decks, and I just fell in love with it immediately. On the Nintendo 64, Pokemon Stadium came out. We got it. It was the first game I ever pre-ordered, and I had it at my house, and I told all my friends. And I had like 10 people over at my house that day. And it was then that I realized just how many people Pokemon can bring together, how much fun you can have with it. It's just really stuck with me ever since.
I'm Kay Dyson. I'm a commentator for the video game and from Pokemon Tournament. I used to just play Yellow, play Pokemon Silver with my friends, and I sort of kept playing. Misty was my hero. I loved that she didn't take any nonsense from the boys. She cared about her family, she loved her Pokemon. Yeah, she was cool. I liked Misty. I got into playing like the competitive stuff, and when I got to university, me and my friends realised, hey, there's this giant Pokemon tournament in Birmingham. It's called a National. Should we go play? Yes. That was 2011. That was my first competitive tournament. That was my first Nationals.
I'm Ross Gilbert, and I'm a Pokemon trading card game caster. Well, I started playing as a very small child when the game very first came out. It was a very casual thing with my friends, and we bought the trading cards and we battled with them, and we would just go for the biggest, strongest Pokemon we could. So when I got a little bit older, I was in my 20s, and I did find out that Pokemon was still around and there was competitive play. So I went to my very first tournament, and my theory was that I had some alright Pokemon cards, and I won my very first game, felt really good about myself, and didn't win another game for 3 more tournaments, because it turns out there were strategies and decks, and I had a lot to learn.
I'm Aaron Zhang, and I'm a Pokemon video game caster. Growing up, Pokemon was always a really big part of my life. I got into the game earlier on, I think in 3rd or 4th grade, when everyone in the classroom had like a copy of Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and I was like, oh, I want to see what this is all about. I think Pokemon has definitely had the biggest influence in my life out of anything, really. My brother's 5 years younger than me, and growing up, it's kind of difficult to have similar hobbies when you have such a big age gap. I remember introducing it to him, and that's like the one hobby that we really share together, and even because of Pokemon, we really were able to share this really special bond.
Being a caster for Pokemon is kind of our dream.
It's super cool.
Being a caster for Pokemon is literally a dream come true.
Oh, hey, how's it going, Ross?
Oh, it's going superbly, sir. When I started doing my casting, when I started doing my commentary really at the grassroots level, this was all I wanted to do.
I'm sort of living my life's dream. I get to share my favorite moments about Pokemon. I get to meet people from all over the world. It's incredibly humbling. It's incredibly fun.
It's a really valuable resource to be able to educate people about the game that we really care and love so much about.
Firstly, you know that you're helping other people around the world see the tournament that's going on. You can help explain them, see this is why we love it so much. Getting the message out there saying, this is Pokemon, this is what we love doing, and come and play with us.
I get far more joy from watching 2 good players play and taking apart their play and seeing what they're doing and explaining it to people than I do from actually playing itself, because I can parlay it into YouTube, into my podcast, and it's something with which I can consume myself all the time.
long time ago, always wanted to spread the Pokemon trading card game specifically. We felt like it was a super underrated aspect of the Pokemon franchise. We felt like there's a ton of strategy, a ton of stories to share. And we always wanted to share them. But now that there's Twitch, and now that people can see it from all over the world, it's been great. It gets bigger and crazier every year, and we're telling the stories that we wanted to all along.
I think storytelling is really important for anything that's competitive. As a caster, I tried to provide two things. One, a good story behind all the matches that we cast, and two, being able to really break down each game and kind of bring it to the next level and allowing players to see why, some plays are made or why high-level play is so cool.
I want to tell the stories. I want people to see these players, to see these matches, to see both the incredible triumphs and maybe the what-if misplays. I want people to watch a Pokemon match and remember it.
It's just a great opportunity to reach out to the Pokemon community in a different way. I think, as casters, it's really cool being able to walk out after games and having people tell you, like, hey, I really enjoyed that game you casted, or you did a good job. Being able to do something that I really love, it's just a really cool opportunity.
The best part about Pokemon is just that it's everywhere. It doesn't matter your age, your upbringing, who you are. Anybody can enjoy Pokemon in a million different ways, and the community is super welcoming.
I love the community aspect of it. I love knowing that there are people all around the world from completely different walks of life, like of all ages, all genders, all orientations, and everyone just meets up at these events.
The big thing I'll say about Pokemon is it really just opened my world up. When you start playing the game, you realize eventually, if I want to go to the big events, I'm going to have to travel outside of my local sphere. And doing that just helped me meet so many different kinds of people.
I've met people from all over the world, all over Europe, the US, and further afield, and I found nothing but lovely, caring, supportive, wonderful people. Because I think it's the game that leads to these experiences. Everybody not only wants to play the game, but they want to help other people play the game. So everyone that's playing has had that same supportive experience where they started playing the game, and everyone in their local community couldn't help more.
I was staff at the World Championships, and at the end of the closing ceremony, they lined all of the staff up outside the ceremony hall. And as everyone came out of the ceremony, we applauded, and just you could see every kid's face light up as they came out and had this crowd of people standing there applauding them. We were clapping for them, they'd give us high fives, we'd cheer. Some people ran down the whole line of us, giving us all high fives. You could tell every kid that came out of that hall, they felt like a champion. And that was just the most wonderful feeling, to know that we'd been part of that, to help make that happen. That was the best day.
It's just a fantastic way to make friends, lifelong friends that you'll know forever. It's really a community unlike any other in the gaming sphere that I've worked with.
The people I've met and the friends I've made have greatly influenced me. I think one of the best things about being in Pokemon is meeting people from all around the world and hearing about their experiences and sharing this one thing that you really love together. I think that definitely has had a huge impact on me, teaching me about different cultures and experiences and being able to make friends from all around the world. That is really awesome.
Pokemon is for everyone, and I think it's becoming more and more obvious that that's the case, which is really wonderful to see.
Follow your dreams. Don't give up. Just because someone says you can't do something doesn't mean that that's true.
If you want to be a competitive player, you want to win tournaments, you want to travel around the world proving that you are the very best, it's a great game to get into. If you just want to play, you want to meet up with